3 of the Profitable Podcast mini course. And in today's quick video, we are covering how to create show content that converts. Now, this is incredibly important if you want to monetize and grow your show because you have to dial in your ability to get people to take action, right? You can't have a show that's profitable if you don't know how to drive specific behaviors. But there's a lot underneath of that leads you to that point. And so today's video is really about walking you through what needs to happen behind the scenes and in the setup of your show content and topics in order to drive consistent conversions. Okay, so number one, if you feel disconnected from your audience, they feel disconnected from you. So one of the biggest things that I see podcasters struggling with is that they create their podcast in a vacuum, and there's no circular ecosystem in which the podcast is part of a bigger conversation and an ongoing dialogue with their audience. So what happens is the podcaster is creating a podcast basically in a vacuum, totally disconnected from their target market, not really knowing what they want, what they need, or what they're going to take action on. So one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you, and we teach this in detail in all of my programs, is you actually want your podcast topics coming from your audience. And that doesn't mean that you aren't the thought leader that's driving the positioning of your brand, the marketing of where you want to be, and your thought leadership. But what it does mean is that you're in tune with the people that you're here to serve. And when you're creating content in a vacuum outside of who you're here to serve, what they want, what they need, where they are, you're not going to create a connection with them. And without connection, there's going to be a lack of action. So my question for you as you watch this video today is, have you been co-creating the topics that you're delivering on your show based on listening, asking questions, and collaborating with your listeners? If you want a show that's going to become wildly profitable for you, there has to be an energetic connection between you and your audience. Whether it's that you do Ask Kelly episodes, for example, where you actually create episodes based on topics that your listeners wrote in, and you really strongly encourage them to send in the topics that they'd like to hear, or whether you post polls in your Facebook group, or you send out emails asking, or even on your private client calls or in your group program, ask them what 10 amazing episodes they would love to see in the show are. When you include them in the conversation about deciding on topics, you are creating in unison with your audience. Number one, you never struggle and get bored with your show because you always have something new to create, that you know that there's someone in their heart of hearts that's waiting for you to create that episode for them that's going to make a difference for their life. Number one. Number two, when you co-create with your audience, there is this build-up anticipation and excitement before you even create the episode of you sharing the fact that you're going to take their suggestions, you're going to implement them, and they can look forward to see them coming soon. And number three, going back to what we already talked about in the last video, you need to have a path to profits. That means that your episodes need to connect with the end goal of the program or programs that you're going to sell people into. And that is why you need to be creating episodes that directly connect with what you teach in your programs, who you are, who your business is here to serve, and they need to be niched in, dialed in, and focused. That entrepreneurial ADD that gets people bouncing all over the place in the initiatives that they go after in their business and in the programs that they create and the content that they create can get you a lot of trouble when it comes to podcasting, because if you get bored and start straying off, you confuse your audience and they're never going to buy. So if you want to create content that converts, you need to start by having an engaged conversation with your audience. And there's lots of ways that we teach in order to do that. I gave you many examples right here, but there has to be a two-way dialogue. You have to include them in the process, and you need to actually understand the why behind what you're creating and make sure before you hit the record button that there is a connection between what your audience wants and needs and is going to buy, the topic that you're covering, and how that correlates with the end action that you want them to take or the program that you want them to invest in. So when the whole process is made circular and fluid and you start with the end in mind, you're going to have episodes that convert and a podcast that's monetized and grows. We'll see you on the next video. Look out on your phone, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific tomorrow.